Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and you join me here. We're in Westside today in Fallout New Vegas. So, for Wasteland biographies, given that the theme of my Science Fallout series for the next few weeks is going to be all about FEV and the Super Mutants, I thought the biographies should kind of tie in with that. So we're starting here at Westside with this guy here. This guy is known as Mean Son of a Bitch, and his history is actually really quite interesting. He also has a friend. This is Mean Son of a Bitch, so he is one of the first generation super mutants that originated from the Mariposa military base. So he was part of the Unity and the Master's army until the Master was defeated by the Vault Dweller in 2162. After that, he kind of wandered the wastes for a while until he was captured near the hub by some people who were very much against mutants. Unfortunately, he had a terrible time. He was tortured and tormented, and he even had his tongue cut out. So you'll notice something when we speak to him. He's wandered off. But he basically, a man called Klamath Bob, who knew him, tried to rescue him by offering to buy him from the people that captured him, but they weren't interested in money. They were just interested in tormenting the life out of this poor guy. So eventually he was liberated from that where he was being held by Tabitha and her group of Nightkin. And he didn't stay with Tabitha though, but he ended up coming this way anyway, and he found himself here in Westside where he met Klamath Bob again, who he knew and remembered. So he decided to stay, and he helps out around town. He does errands for people and things, but he also is very important to the defence of Westside. So he does get involved with the Westside militia and protects from outside threats like the Fiends. So Motor Runner will actually say that his decision to take over Vault 3 and hide out in there, a big part of that is because of this guy, because he's so dangerous to them that they needed somewhere really secure to keep themselves safe. So that's why, one of the reasons why the Raiders are using Vault 3 as their little stronghold. So let's have a chat with him.
Hi.
Hello. Who are you?
Myself, Abby's.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure is unknown. Goodbye.
Yeah. So he's definitely got a speech impediment, which is kind of a shame because it was something that was done to him. He doesn't seem to mind that. A lot of people do kind of avoid him and are a bit wary of him because he's a super mutant, but he doesn't seem to mind that, and he is actually quite a nice guy. He seems to be kind of intelligent, but not easy to understand because of the speech impediment, which was caused by his torturers basically cut out his tongue. So, you know, pretty horrible thing to do to anyone. But despite his name being Mean Son of a Bitch, he is actually a friendly and kind of polite person. He says, "Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Goodbye." So he's really, really nice and polite and generally quite happy here. The reason that he's kind of got the name is because he is extremely effective at defeating the Fiends and destroying any threats to the town that he is looking after. Let's see if we can...
Hi again.
Hello. So, what are you doing here?
I wash my bone with Sippy. I have Bogo. Phoebe's a rope. Goodbye.
Yeah, so he's like, I watch my town, Westside, which the voice actor kind of misread how he was supposed to pronounce that, and he's got to go because there's fiends around. So you can kind of figure out what he's trying to say, but obviously he has a bit of trouble with that, which potentially could be quite frustrating for the poor guy, you know, that he's struggling to make himself understood. You know, and it's not something that happened, it's something that was done to him. But according to the game files, he does actually have good karma, so he is, according to universe, he's a good person. And the only other super mutant in the Fallout franchise that has good karma is Marcus, actually, who is another Unity alumnus. We'll talk about him at a later date, because he's very interesting, because he's, again, one of the few characters that's appeared in multiple games. Interestingly, in comparison, Fox actually has neutral karma, even though you have to have good karma to have him as a companion in Fallout 3, but Fox has neutral karma, so the only super mutants that have good karma is being son of a bitch and Marcus, which I think is really interesting, especially since they essentially worked for the main kind of antagonist of the original Fallout game. So very, very interesting kind of history there, and I think it really does show, there is quite a difference between the Mariposa super mutants, so the West Coast super mutants that came from the Master, from Unity, versus the ones that we find in the East Coast with Fallout 3 and Fallout 4's versions of the super mutants, which are on the whole less intelligent and a bit more kind of brutal and less well organised and things like that. So there is quite a difference, but we do know from various bits of information that the Mariposa base had their own strain of FEV that was kind of different from the one that was still being used over in the East Coast, so that could explain a lot of the differences. But I think it's very, very interesting, and honestly, if you need to have anybody to protect your settlement, I feel like Mean Son of a Bitch is probably a good choice. And he doesn't mind the name either, he seems to like the name actually, apparently. But I think I'm trying to figure out, I can't remember what the guy looks like. Here we go. This is where Klamath Bob. So he runs the liquor store in Westside. Hello.
Howdy. Name's Bob, but folks around here call me Klamath Bob.
Klamath Bob.
What can I do
okay.
you for?
So can say I take it you're from Klamath?
Yeah, good old Klamath. Not a bad place if you like hunting, eating, and skinning geckos all day.
It's
a pretty dull place, but I hear there was a bit of excitement when this tribal from Arroyo came to town years back. All before my time, though.
There's a little reference there for you. So I have some questions.
I might have some answers for you. What did you want to know?
What about the super mutant walking around town?
Oh, yeah, that's Mean Son of a Bitch. I know the name sounds bad, but he likes it. He's one nasty old coot. Far as I can tell, he's one of them original super mutants. What came from the boneyard. Wandered about after that master fellow died. Eventually got caught somewhere around the hub back in NCR. Boy, they sure treated him mean down there. Cut him up so bad he can't talk no more. I tried to buy him just so they'd stop hurting him, but they didn't want any of it.
Yeah, it's pretty harsh. So do you know how you got away from the NCR?
Turns out some of them night kids, whatever you call those sneaky super mutant types, got in and busted him out. I guess somebody named Tabitha led the bunch that freed him. Don't know much more than that.
There we go. And how did he end up here?
He just showed up here one day. Couldn't really talk, but he remembered me all right. Ever since then, he's just been, well, hanging around, I guess. Does odd jobs for folks and smashes the bad guys when they come poking around.
Yeah, it's kind of like they've got their own personal Hulk. Are people not afraid of him?
Some folks steer clear of him, for sure, but you don't seem to mind.
There we go. So,
what else did you want to chat about?
Yeah, a bit more detail really about
Sure.
Mean Son of a Bitch and where
Okay,
he came
then.
from. So, he's got a bit of history there, and he's told us basically a little bit of a summary of the plot of Fallout 2 and what happened in Fallout 1 as well, where the Master had his army of super mutants, and then it was defeated by the Vault Dweller, and all the super mutants were basically kind of cast aside and had to just wander and kind of find their own way in the world, and some of them ended up coming this way. But there was obviously a lot of kind of anti-mutant sentiment around in the hub and the area around New California, so yeah, unfortunately he took the brunt of that. But it's interesting, because he's obviously suffered a lot of horrible things and a lot of abuse, because he was tortured and had his tongue cut out and everything like that. But yeah, he's still, it hasn't pushed him to be aggressive towards humans or anything like that, that he's still, he's willing to defend this little settlement and defend the people here. And even if the people avoid him and don't seem to like him, he doesn't really care. He doesn't take it personally, whereas potentially other super mutants that have been treated like that by humans would want to just kill humans and be really aggressive to them. So I think it's really interesting that, even after all that, he's still willing to live with people quite comfortably and help defend them and things. So, it just goes to prove to me that, the super mutants from this part of the Fallout world are definitely, on the whole, more intelligent. They're a bit more kind of aware of things. They're, they have the ability to reason and to think about things, which we don't tend to see with the East Coast super mutants. But I think there's a very important reason that there's such a big difference between them. The Nightkin are kind of interesting as well, so that's something that we'll get on to. So come Saturday, the new section of the Science Fallout series is we're going to really take a deep dive into FEV, where it came from, what it does, why it exists, and the creation of the super mutants in all kind of aspects. So we're going to start that off with talking about the virus itself, its origins, and what it does or how it might work in order to create these kind of mutations and things, and how it can be a bit unpredictable. So hopefully you'll come back for that. I think that's going to be a really interesting, really thorough deep dive. So do be prepared for some virology, for some molecular biology and other fun scientific things like that. But any thoughts, any questions, drop them in the comments, and hopefully you'll come back to see more. So don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.